All right, buckle up, folks. We are diving headfirst into some serious transfer window drama today.
Ooh, yeah, this one's got all the ingredients for a proper football saga.
We're talking young talent, Premier League heavyweights, and enough will they won't they tension to keep us on the edge of our seats for months.
Sounds like my kind of dog already.
Mine too, trust me. So, the name on everyone's lips right now is Alejandro Garnacho. This 20-year-old winger at Manchester United is absolutely electric on the pitch.
And he's got the stats to back it up, already making a serious impact.
Exactly. But here's where things get interesting. Chelsea seems to have their sights set on luring him away from Old Trafford.
That's right. The Blues are apparently sniffing around trying to figure out if they can pull off a major coup.
And our main source for all this juicy gossip is a recent report by David Ornstein at The Athletic, which, let's be honest,
If Ornstein says it, it's practically written in stone.
pretty much. So we're going to break down this whole Garnacho transfer saga. What makes him so special? What are the hurdles Chelsea might face? And what does this all mean for Manchester United?
And the bigger picture, right? How does this impact the Premier League landscape?
Absolutely, because if this transfer does go through, it could shift the balance of power in a big way.
Okay, so let's start with the player himself, Alejandro Garnacho. What's the deal with this kid?
Well, for starters, his stats are ridiculous for a 20-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
31 appearances, 8 goals, 5 assists. That's not just potential, that's already delivering at the top level.
Yep, and it's not just the numbers, it's the way he plays. He's got that raw talent, that X factor.
I've heard commentators call it flair. He's got pace, he's tricky, he's not afraid to take on defenders.
And he can actually finish, which is, kind of important for a forward.
Definitely helps. But can you break down why a player like Garnacho, a winger specifically, is so valuable in today's game?
Sure. So modern football is all about speed and creating chances from wide areas.
Right, stretching the defense, getting those crosses in.
Exactly. Wingers who can beat their man and deliver a killer ball are like gold dust. And that's what makes Garnacho so exciting. He's a nightmare for defenders because he can go inside or outside. He's got the skills to unlock defenses.
And he's got the confidence to pull it off on the big stage.
Which is a crucial point. Not every young player can handle that kind of pressure.
Okay, so we've established that Garnacho is a hot commodity. Let's talk about why Chelsea is so keen on bringing him to Stamford Bridge.
Right. Well, Chelsea's been having a bit of a rough patch lately.
To say the least.
Their attack's been misfiring. Mudryk's been suspended. They've got a growing injury list, so they desperately need some firepower up front.
And they see Garnacho as the solution to their problems.
Potentially. He fits their style of play. He's young and hungry, and he's Premier League proven.
But Chelsea's also been linked with other players, right?
Yeah, Jamie Gittins from Borussia Dortmund is another name that's been floating around. He's an exciting prospect, definitely one for the future.
But maybe they see Garnacho as the more finished product. Someone who can make an impact right away.
Possibly. And let's not forget the Premier League factor. Garnacho has already adapted to the pace and physicality of English football, which is a big advantage.
That's true. It's a tough league to adjust to, for sure.
Now let's flip the script and talk about Manchester United's perspective. They're in a tricky situation, to say the least.
Tricky. Try financially precarious.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. They're under pressure to comply with those pesky Premier League profit and sustainability rules.
The ones designed to stop clubs from spending themselves into oblivion.
You got it. Essentially, there's a limit on how much money a club can lose over a certain period.
If they go over that limit.
Penalties. We're talking transfer restrictions, points deductions, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Not pretty.
So, selling a player like Garnacho, even if it breaks their hearts, could be their way to balance the books and avoid those penalties.
It's a tough call, but it might be their least bad option.
But wouldn't it be madness for Manchester United to sell to a direct rival? Especially when they're trying to climb the table themselves.
It would be a huge gamble, for sure. But maybe they think they can get a king's ransom for him and reinvest that money wisely.
Speaking of ransom, what sort of price tag are we talking about here?
The Athletic report mentioned Manchester United valuing him at around £60 million, which, to be fair, is a hefty sum for a 20-year-old. Even one as talented as Garnacho.
Especially when you consider that Napoli reportedly offered $40 million earlier this season, and Manchester United said no.
Exactly, so they're clearly playing hardball. But can they afford to? That's the million-dollar question.
It's a high-stakes poker game, that's for sure. But there's another piece of this puzzle that we need to talk about, right? Garnacho's disciplinary issues.
Ah, yes, the elephant in the room. There have been whispers about his attitude, some incidents under the previous manager.
Like getting dropped from the Manchester Derby squad? That was a pretty big statement.
It was. And while the current manager seems to have him back on track, those concerns are still lingering.
So how much do you think those off-field issues impact his transfer value and a club's willingness to take a chance on them?
It's a significant factor. Clubs are very careful these days. They don't just look at talent, they look at the whole package.
Right. They want to make sure they're not investing in a player who's going to cause trouble in the dressing room or damage the club's reputation.
Exactly. They do their due diligence, they check social media, they talk to people who've worked with the player. They want to be as sure as they can be that they're making a smart investment.
So for Garnacho, it's not just about scoring goals. It's about showing maturity, professionalism, proving that he can be a reliable member of a top-tier team.
He's got to convince potential buyers that he's worth the risk.
Okay, so to sum it all up, we've got this incredibly talented young player with massive potential, but also some question marks hanging over his head.
Caught in the middle of a financial tug-of-war between two Premier League giants.
And all this against the backdrop of a wildly unpredictable transfer window.
Where anything can happen.
Exactly. So where do you see this saga going? Will Chelsea make a formal bid? Will Manchester United hold firm and risk the financial consequences?
Honestly, I have no clue. This one is too close to call. But that's what makes it so exciting, right?
It keeps us guessing.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the most important question of all. What would you do if you were in charge at Manchester United? Would you cash in on Garnacho, or would you take a gamble and hold on to him?
I'd love to hear what our listeners think.
Hit us up on social media and let us know your take. This is one transfer saga you won't want to miss.